What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik, the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and I'm back with my NBA 2K19 MyLeague draft class analysis videos. So we went all the way up through from the very beginning of the first draft class that they're going to have available in 2K19 to upload, and we made it all the way to 1995, and we stumbled a little bit because I had a lot going on, but I'm back. Let's get into it. Alright, before we get into the video, please don't forget to leave a like on this one, and also if you have not subscribed, do so. If you have subscribed and you haven't clicked that notifications bell, do that. Alright, 1995 is the first draft, and the best players in this draft are not actually even listed, pictured in this image. The number one pick is Joe Smith. You have Sean Respert, Michael Finley, Corliss Williamson, Bryant, Big Country Reeves, and others. But this guy was the best player, hands down, to come out of this draft. Kevin Garnett with 191.4 win shares. He was the number 5 pick overall. Second place really isn't even close. Obviously, KG's in the game. He's even in the game as a guest announcer, so you have no doubt that you'll be able to use KG on the all-time Wolves. They also put him on the all-time Celtics. I'm not sure about that, but he does appear there, and then he'll be in the draft class as well. KG, realize he shot almost 50% from the field for his entire 21-year career. 10 rebounds, 3.7 assists, just under 18 points, 79% free throw shooter too. Another person from that draft that was not in the image is Rasheed Wallace. He was the number 4 pick overall. So this was a heck of a draft for bigs, especially right at the top. 105.1 win shares. Very good player with the Portland Trailblazers, and of course won a championship with the Detroit Pistons. Rasheed Wallace probably was even better than his statistics would suggest. 14.4 points a game for his entire career, 6.7 rebounds. Very good player. Now, one of the biggest I shouldn't say overachiever, but a guy who achieved much higher than their draft spot, Michael Finley. He's number 3 on this list, 21st pick overall, but number 3 in win shares, which means he did a great job in his career. He should be in the game, of course, as he was before. But other people that you can look at who are not going to be on this list right now, but Eric Snow was the 43rd pick overall. He was the he has the 11th highest win shares of anybody in this draft. And Fred Hoiberg was number 52 pick overall in this draft, and he was 17th. So he did very well, and that's always been a really good render from Michael Finley. Next up is Brent Barry. He was the 15th pick by the Denver Nuggets. Bounced around a little bit before he kind of found himself with the Seattle Supersonics, and then, of course, with the San Antonio Spurs. Big time three-point shooter, over 40% for his career. Also won the slam dunk contest as well. 9.3 points a game, 70.5 win shares. Brent Barry was a very solid player, and the best of the Barry sons, because yes, he is the son of Rick Barry. He also had John Barry and Drew Barry, who I think he might have just had like a little cup of coffee in the NBA, but all of those guys are Rick Barry's sons, but Brent was definitely the one that had the better career. Number 5 on this list is Antonio McDyess, and had he not been injured for the majority or a good piece of his young career when he was with the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets, he would probably be even higher on this list. He was a number 2 pick in the draft. He went nuts in the NCAA tournament the year before he got drafted, and that really boosted his stock. He was a outstanding athlete, big time rebounder, but he was not the same player after he came back from injury. That's not a great render of Antonio McDyess. I don't know what's going on with his right eye. His right eye is running amok, led astray. It didn't land on Plymouth Rock. His eye landed on something else. I don't know, but it's not good. Joe Smith was the number 1 pick. He was a 6 overall in the win shares. Let's go to 96. Y'all been talking about 96 because 96 is one of those drafts that could very well be the best draft of all time if you go from top to bottom. One of the greatest players ever, Kobe Bryant, number 1 pick overall. I mean, not the number 1 pick overall, the number 1 in win shares. He was actually the 13th pick. Now, you want to talk about somebody achieving above their draft slot. I don't know if there's ever been anybody who achieved higher than a draft slot than Kobe Bryant. 13th overall pick, 25 points a game for his career, 5 boards, 4.7 assists, 172.7 win shares. That shooting percentage is a little lower than I like, but you know how that is. Just a little under 45%, a 33% three-point shooter. You know, I really don't think there's a great Kobe Bryant render in 2K yet. I mean, I think it's decent. Ballhead Kobe is decent. Froby is a little bit better, to be honest. It's a little better. Next is Ray Allen, Hall of Famer. Obviously, Kobe Bryant's going as soon as he's eligible. Ray Allen just went in, 145.1 on the win shares, 45% field goal percentage, 40% from 3-point range. That's what I always say, man. I'm not trying to hate on Kobe, but you look at somebody like Ray Allen, who took far more threes than Kobe, whose field goal percentage is still higher overall for his career than Kobe. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's better than Kobe. I'm just saying, like, this is one of the things I get on Kobe about. You know, when people start talking about the Kobe's, you know, this and that. Still one of the all-time greats, but that efficiency is, to me, is where the thing is. So, but Ray Allen's a great render right there. Another Hall of Famer, Steve Nash. He's third, 129.7 win shares, 14 points a game, 3 rebounds, 8.5 assists. Those numbers would be higher if he had found his groove a little bit earlier, because he was with Dallas early and he was a good player, but he didn't become great until he got to Phoenix. This dude is one of the best offensive players I think to ever play the game. Just all things considered, he's one of the best. So yeah, his render just recently got better, because for a long time, Steve Nash looked like a disgruntled white lady in all of his renders, and I'm glad that they have made him happier, because it was somebody. Hey, looky here, when Allen Iverson is number 4 in win shares on any list, you know that list is pretty serious. Iverson, 99 win shares, 26.7 points, 3.7 rebounds, 6.2 assists. Now, the efficiency thing, you got to bite AI too. It's got to bite him too. 42% from the field, 31% from from 3-point range, 78% free throw shooter. But if you just talk about players, they're the most beloved players, he is probably one of the 5 most beloved players maybe in NBA history, especially over the last 25, 30 years. Allen Iverson. But look, number 5 is Peja Stojakovic. This is a heck of a draft. Now, this is the last one I'm going to show you from this draft. We already know what kind of 3-point bomber he was and everything, but I got to run down some of the other names that are in this draft. Marcus Camby, Stephon Marbury, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Jermaine O'Neal, Derek Fisher, Eric Dampier, you know well, Kerry Kittles, Antoine Walker, Jerome Williams, the late Lorenzen Wright. A lot of people in this draft, man. This draft was pretty nasty. I'm talking about, you go, what, I would say 14 deep of really, really good players. So the 96 draft is stizact. Let's go to 97. 97 is not quite as good. All of the talent was clearly in the previous draft. Now, there were some good ones. There's some really, really good ones, but it's just not the depth. As a matter of fact, arguably the greatest power forward that ever lived is in this draft. 206.4 win shares for Tim Duncan. 19 points, 10.8 rebounds, 3 assists, 50% from the field, just under 70% from the free throw line for his career. He won everything. He won everything. Anything that you just about have that he would ever have been eligible to win, he won it. I mean, MVPs, Defensive Players of the Year, championships, NBA Finals MVPs, all this kind of stuff. And he has a pretty good render, even though he look a little like Eric LaSalle. Google it up. Google it up. Google it up. In case y'all don't know, Google it up. Look a little bit like Eric LaSalle on here. I don't know. Chauncey Billups, number 2 now. When Chauncey Billups was first drafted after that first 1 or 2 years, especially was in Boston under Rick Pitino, who he did not get along with, we thought he was a bust. Number 3 pick overall out of Colorado. We was like, it ain't going to work out. It just ain't working out. But he turned it around in a major way, became one of the best point guards of his era. 15 points a game, 5.4 assists. Those numbers would have been higher if he had found himself a little bit earlier. His efficiency numbers are a little shaky too. 41% from the field as a career, but he's just about 39% from three. So it shows you almost like a large percentage of his shots came from three. And then Chauncey wasn't an explosive athlete, so he wasn't a guy that's going to be able to finish in the lane with all that much regularity. Hall of Famer, Tracy McGrady. Now, this is one thing. A lot of people say, is Chauncey Billups a Hall of Famer? Well, Chauncey Billups has more win shares than Tracy McGrady, more championships than Tracy McGrady. And he also has the history of performing well in the NBA Finals. So if McGrady's in, you can make a case that Chauncey Billups should be in. But McGrady was one of the best offensive players of his time. He could have been one of the better defensive players as well. He really didn't have like any weaknesses, to be just totally honest. Like no game skill-wise weaknesses. He could do everything on the court, offensively and defensively, that you would ever ask of a wing, and he was absolutely dynamic. Antonio Daniels. So you can see there's a significant fall off after three. Now, I'm not trying to hate on Antonio Daniels, but I think Antonio Daniels' most famous thing that he ever did is when he got his ankles completely snapped in half by Allen Iverson. There's a crossover he does on Antonio Daniels. I wish I could show y'all the video, but my licensing ain't up to par yet. But oh my God, you Google it up. Iverson breaks Antonio Daniels, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just filthy. But he was a good player, decent player, especially a good defensive player, which made that move even just that much more impressive. This is Derek Anderson from the Kentucky Wildcats. He was like their best player, or at least their best senior player or older player on the championship team. As a pro, he was okay. He was decent. Not great, but decent. Went number 13 overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Had a solid career. Had a solid play, 11 years. Antonio Daniels played 13 years, so that's a lot. Also in that draft, though, before we go to 98, you can see was already good. Keith Van Horn, Steven Jackson, Tim Thomas, Bobby Jackson. All of those guys were in that draft. 98 was nice. Led by the best European player in the history of the game, Dirk Nowitzki. 206.1 win shares. He was the 9th pick overall. So he's right there with Kobe almost in terms of performing ahead of their draft spot. But yeah, 21 a game for his career, 7.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists. I don't know how much longer he's going to play. The longer he plays, the more he brings down that scoring average, because he's not getting up near those numbers anymore. I don't know. Junior took a picture of him, looked like he got shot in the eye with a BB gun on this particular picture. But the render's good. Junior just got him after he got shot in the eye with a BB gun. So got to be careful with the airsoft guns, because you can get hurt. Paul Pierce, number 2, the 10th pick overall. He's another one. Performed up for sure. 150 win shares, 19.7 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 19-year pro out of Kansas. A lot of people don't realize, man, when Paul Pierce first came into the league, he was dunking on people. He wasn't playing that strong man, push you off, all I need is a little bit of space to get my jump shot off kind of game. That was later. Early in his career, he was putting them down. That's a great render. That render is like, you can't even get no better. That's fantastic. That's insane. You know, it's crazy. He kind of looks like my grandfather on this particular picture. He ain't old enough to be my grandfather, but he do look a little bit like it right there. I ain't gonna lie. Vince Carter, number 5 pick overall. He was actually drafted by the Golden State Warriors, but he was traded for his college teammate on draft day. Never played for Golden State. One of the few teams he has never played for, because he has played for everybody. He has played for the Saskatchewan Eagles. That team don't exist. I just made it up just to kind of be some hyperbole to let you know what I'm talking about. But 20 seasons in the league. It must have been something in the water for guys who was drafted in 98, because they just don't retire. They play until the game ends, like the whole sport. I used to think this was a really good render. I don't know now that I'm looking at this. This looked like an angry version of the Czar. Y'all need to know who the Czar is if you like 2K. Google it up, YouTube, search it. You know what I'm saying? But like a real angry, younger version of the Czar. Like he lost his hair early, but you don't care. You'll see what I'm talking about. But Vince Carter, outstanding player. Rashard Lewis, Number 4. Now he was a 32nd pick overall, all the way up to number 4 in win shares. 90.9 win shares, 15 points a game, 5.2 rebounds. When he was with the Sonics, in the mid to early 90s. Well, I'm sorry, not the mid, like in the 2000s, I should say. And with the Sonics, with Ray Allen, man, they were a heck of a duo. So I mentioned Vince Carter getting traded on draft day for a teammate. It was this guy, Anton Jameson. Never anything super flashy, but you would look up and he had 20 and 10. He turned himself into a good 3-point shooter. One of my favorite players, just overall, just the way he approached the game, everything. Anton Jameson was a heck of a player. Loved him. Mike Bibby was in that draft. Cuttino Mobley, Al Harrington, White Chocolate, Jason Williams was in that draft. Rafer Alston, you had some hot sauce in that draft too. You had some style with Rafer Alston and White Chocolate. So there you had some sauce. But 1999, this is our last draft class of this particular video, was a good draft too. Pretty decent. Number 1 in win shares is Shawn Marion, I think one of the more underrated players to come out. I think especially in this particular draft. This draft had some good players, but I don't know. It seemed like a lot of guys who you might have thought were going to be great didn't necessarily turn out to be as great as you thought, but it still turned out a good amount of long-time pros and really good players, even champions, big-time champions, as a matter of fact. Shawn Marion, really good player, like I said, 124 win shares. Elton Brand was the number 1 pick in the draft by the Chicago Bulls. He won the Rookie of the Year that year, and then he got traded on draft day for Tyson Chandler. And yeah, that's how that went. I can't even say it was a bad trade because the Bulls was horrible with Bryant, and then they wasn't no better with Tyson Chandler. So it was whatever. But 109 win shares, 15.9 points, 8.5 rebounds. He really transformed his game once he lost weight and played slimmer. He had more explosion and everything. Manu Ginobili just recently announced his retirement. 106 win shares, 4 NBA championships. You cannot really look at the stats when you look at Manu because we know he sacrificed his game for that squad. He played a 6-man role for that squad when in actuality he probably would never have been that on other teams. Would have been a starter scoring over 20 a game for probably a good 6 to 8 years. He could score that well. So I love this render they have of Ginobili in the game, looking like Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers. Google it up. But yes, he definitely has it going on there. But great player. I had Doug Collins once say that was his favorite player of all time. So Jason Terry, he's got championships, or 1 at least. The 10th pick overall, 4th in win shares. He can put the ball in the basket. He could score. 102 win shares, 13.4 points a game. Actually has a higher per game average for his career than Ginobili. 2.3 rebounds, 3.8 assists. The assists are the same. Doesn't have the winning like Ginobili, so he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. He's going to be just considered a really good player. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask Junior about these screenshots that he's taking because every one he takes got the player's eyes on trip. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if he's trying to make a fool out of people. I don't know. Andre Miller. And I always thought Andre Miller looked like a little bit like Richard Pryor. I don't know. Especially when he had the afro, he really looked a little bit like Richard Pryor to me. But 108 win shares. You wouldn't think he had 100.8. I shouldn't say 108. 100.8 win shares. 6.5 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 12.5 points. He's been in the league 17 years. He had an Iron Man streak going. I remember somebody asked him, how do you stay healthy? Because he's like missing no games. How do you stay healthy with all of that? He said the key is don't jump. Well, see, Andre Miller couldn't jump anyway, so it didn't do him no good to jump. So why would I even do that and then risk injury? But Andre Miller was also in that draft. But this draft had some people below 5. Lamar Odom, Andre Kirilenko, Baron Davis, Richard Hamilton, Corey McGaddy, Meta World Peace, Steve Francis, Wally Zerbiak, James Posey. Really good players, I would say, all the way through 14 on this draft. So this was 99 was a deep draft. May not have been spectacular, but it was definitely deep. That's all I got for you for this particular episode. Be on the lookout as we go from 2000 to 2004. As always, I appreciate you watching. God bless. Peace.
I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.